It goes along with the saying there's more than one way to skin a cat, because there's definitely more than one way to lower a truck. Well, hello everyone, Kevin here, and thanks for watching this video in our bottom line series, where we focus on everything about custom lower trucks. Now, we've had a number of videos with a range of different topics, but I think there's one subject we kind of skipped on. We should have covered in the past because it has a lot of insight for anybody that's looking to get into a lower truck or drop a truck themselves, and that would be the best and worst ways of how to lower a truck. It goes along with the saying there's more than one way to skin a cat, because there's definitely more than one way to lower a truck. I think ultimately the goal is to not only have a truck that's lowered and stylistically looks cool from a parking lot or parked in a garage or something like that, but something you can enjoy on the road that's comfortable to drive. The suspension's not too stiff where you're not bouncing around. You don't hit a you might hit a set of railroad tracks and get launched out of your seat or something like that because your suspension system's not correct. So yeah, we want to take a look at all these different systems, and yeah, let's dig in. Now, I know not everybody has a huge budget to customize a vehicle. And you might be tempted when you hear people say you can lower your truck on a budget, or you could lower your truck for free, which technically you could do on some vehicles. You can lower them for free, but I would highly suggest not doing this because you're ultimately going to sacrifice your ride quality. And I'm not talking about, saving up too much, maybe a few $100, maybe up to $1,000 or so if you want to get some good quality parts. But, there's a number of companies out there like Beltec, Eibach could have some things for you, DJM, McGoy's. They all have stuff or kits that are pretty reasonable. As a good example, my 2000 Chevy S10, when I first lowered it, was a 5.7 drop, and it cost me about $600 to do it. Now, my budget did go up because I went so low, I had to get a new set of wheels and tires, and I kind of wanted to go all out, so I got a set of 17-inch billet wheels with Nitto tires on it. So yeah, that did bring my price up a little bit, and things could be done a little bit cheaper, but I wanted to, be a little flashy out there, so that's what I did. So yeah, I would highly suggest everyone to do their research in finding quality parts for your vehicle, because you're going to thank yourself in the long run. One of the worst methods of lowering a vehicle that was practiced in the past was heating up coil springs. And this might have been done for a number of reasons, including parts availability, which has changed nowadays. But also the allure was that it was pretty easy to do and could be done pretty cheap, if not free, if you had access to a torch. But I have a coil spring here I can kind of show you around a little bit. What basically you would do is, you have a coil spring like this in your vehicle, all four corners probably, maybe just in the front, and you would use a torch or some other heat source to heat up this coil. And what that would do was, when it was heated up with the weight of the vehicle, everything would collapse a bit. Now, when I talked to my buddy Seth over at Switch Suspension, he kind of told me why this is bad. Basically, you're changing the formulation of the material, so the way it reacts is going to be different than what it was intended to do. Also, these springs themselves, or the coils, are going to get closer together when the vehicle is just sitting. So when you drive it and you hit a bump or something, the metal might hit each other and it's just going to be rough. So this method is just not used anymore. Another method that was used in the past that we don't do anymore was cutting coils out of these springs. And basically what you would do is, you would cut a number of these out depending on how low you want to go. But there's a number of things wrong with this. Number one, usually the ends kind of sit in a pocket or something in your suspension or in your chassis of your vehicle. And if you don't get that right, then you got to cut it again. And it just might be a lot of work for yourself. But also look at the spring. It's smaller at the top and bigger here. Typically, a lot of springs are like this because it's the way they're designed to react. So yeah, this is not a good method either. If you are on a budget, I would look at getting a static bolt-on style lowering kit, as it doesn't cost that much money. Like I said, with my S10, it was only a few $100. It didn't break the bank. You can accomplish different levels of lowering. If you want to go, just a few inches lower, you probably could just use some coil springs. It won't cost you that much. If you want to go a little bit further, you can add things like drop spindles or drop control arms in the front. In the rear, they have lowered leaf springs, shackles, and even rear axle flip kits, which are pretty economical because they're about $100. And you can get about a 6-inch drop out of that too as well in the rear. So yeah, things that I would recommend avoiding would be mixing parts from different companies. I remember one time I used control arms from one company with drop spindles from another, and it didn't work. The geometry, everything was all off. I think the ball joints are kinked and all this stuff. So yeah, just make sure that you get everything from one source and everything works together. The other thing I would recommend is if you do a dramatic drop, replace your shocks. Get lowered shocks, because stock shocks will not work. They'll max out at a certain point. So if you're using them to their maximum, it's just not going to ride good. So do your research with that and make sure you get the right parts. For those of you that might have more budget and might be looking to having a really trick suspension that handles very well, that you can also get, well, not only ride smooth, but will also have some performance, and that would be a coil-over suspension. Now, this is where things get complicated because the prices dramatically drop up, and not just with the coilovers themselves, but with the suspension system, because most trucks are not designed to have coilovers or swap them in. So you might have to fabricate a system in order to accept the coilovers, or you might have to scrap your whole suspension and get something else, you know, start with the frame rails and get something else, fabricate something else, or get something from another company. Companies like QA1, Ride Tech, Roadster Shop, Porterbuilt I think has some systems as well. These are all systems that you can add to your vehicle that will allow you to put coilovers. So yeah, let's. I have a coilover here. Let's take a look at one. Now this is from QA1, and basically you have your spring here, but what makes it so great is that you can easily add different springs that react differently, different heights as well, and then you can adjust the heights here. So that makes it super easy when you're able to fit these and you want to fine tune it. You can do that, as well as, you know, you can swap the whole system out anytime you want or anything like that. It's still a little bit involved, but it's a lot easier than a static suspension. Also, most coilovers have a dampening adjuster. Some have one, some have two. And what that does is basically you can retune the shock to react for a racing application, maybe be a little stiffer. Or you can soften it up for the street so it's nice and comfortable. And it's really easy. I mean, you just, you know, turn that dial there and that's it. You're set up to go for different types of applications or whatever you're trying to do with your vehicle. So yes, it's a little more complicated, but I think this is the best way to go if you're trying to get the most out of your suspension without going completely slammed or on the ground. For example, my 62 GMC, I have a static drop system on it, but since the chassis is so old that when I added these parts, it just doesn't react the way I want to. I did get the results. It's pretty low. It's kind of where I want to be. I want to go a little bit lower. So what I'm doing is actually I ordered a chassis from TCI. They've got a whole Pro Touring system on it. I'm not really going to go racing, but I kind of just wanted everything that I could throw at it. So we'll have some updates for you later on. I mean, that's going to be in a few months. So yeah, stay tuned for that one. I truly believe that static drop kits and coilover systems are the best way to lower your vehicle depending on your budget and what you want to get out of your vehicle. But some of you guys want to go all out. You want to have your truck completely planted on the pavement, have the ability to raise it up simply on demand by pressing a button so you can drive it and get over things like speed bumps and go through driveways and everything. And the best way, in my opinion, to do that is with air ride. Now, it's really complicated, so I actually made a whole video about this and everything that's involved with it called Is Air Ride Right For You? So I'll put the link to that in the description down below so you can check that out if you want to go down that rabbit hole. So I do have an airbag here so I can quickly show you some of the basics of it. What you'll be doing is you'll take out your springs and you'll be replacing them with this, which is adjustable. You see this fitting here with this air line. You're going to have a whole air system with compressed air, which is a whole system. Like I said, it's complicated. So you got to fill a tank, you've got management, you've got all that other stuff that supplies this. And when you regulate this, air goes in here. This will raise up. This is a double convoluted bag, which means it's got two bellows here. It's adjustable. So yeah, you've got your air line that goes in here. And then you've got your mounting hardware up here, and you got some below too. You got some holes here that you can mount onto your suspension as well. But yeah, this is complicated because your truck was probably not built to have one of these. So when you take out your springs and put these in, you probably have to fabricate something, or you have to purchase a whole new suspension system that works with an airbag, it's rather complicated, but I'm not going to show you a way you can do this in your driveway. It can be done. I've seen people that do it. I probably could do it myself. I just haven't done it myself. But yeah, it can be done. Now, air ride is not the only way to have your truck easily go up and down dramatically on demand. You can use hydraulics, but in the truck community, we just have the opinion that air ride is typically smoother than hydraulics. Hydraulics are something for maybe if you're hopping, you're doing something like that. But most people in the truck community, we're not looking to do that anymore. That's kind of something that's done in the past. That's an old trend. But if you're trying to look at the differences, we did a cool video on that called Hydraulics versus Air Ride, which I did with a buddy of mine who had a lowrider and everything, so we were able to look at the two systems and everything. Really cool video. If you've got the time to watch it, I'll put the link to that in the description below. But yeah, other things that I would caution you about air ride is that if you have a high horsepower motor, maybe a V8 that's supercharged or turbocharged, something like that, where you have a lot of power and you want to use that power, air ride is not the way to go. I've seen this in a couple different ways and it's always failed every time. And the problem is that air ride is too soft. It's not going to plant down the power to the pavement with the tires and everything. You might have good Nitto tires on there and everything, but if your suspension system is soft, you might get what we call wheel hop. You plant that power down, but the wheel starts hopping up and down because of the power and how soft the suspension is basically going to be your weak point with that. So I would strongly suggest, if you're looking for the power, don't go this route. Now, I'm not saying it's wrong. If I've seen plenty of vehicles that are slammed on the ground, that have huge motors on them and everything, and that's cool. I dig it. I think a lot of people dig it, you know, but it's mostly for like, hey, yeah, stylistically, that's cool. So I don't have anything negative to say about that, really. If you want to go that direction, all the power to you. I dig it. A lot of other people dig it. Just don't expect to be able to put down that power with these systems, is all I'm saying. Well, after I shot this video, I remembered a few things I needed to mention that are key to having a good lower truck suspension. And one of those things is notching the rear frame of your truck for the axle to travel up. And some people may think that if you lower your truck only a few inches, you don't need to do that. But I would highly suggest having at least a C-notch in your frame. Because I've definitely been in the situation where I lowered a truck and I had about 4 inches between the axle and the frame, and I thought that was enough room. Well, it wasn't. I would hit it all the time, and it would just the truck would bottom out. It was had a rough ride, and it was super annoying. So I would highly suggest that. I know some of the worry is that you could possibly bend or tweak your frame, but that's easily avoidable by having jack stands in the front of the frame and supporting it behind where the notch is going to be as well. And then when you put everything back together, take all the stuff, take the stands out, and you should be good. So yeah, it's easily avoidable. So you shouldn't have those issues if you do everything correctly. For those that are doing more dramatic drops like coilovers or airbags, you're going to look into getting a step notch, which is a lot bigger, and basically the notch is going to protrude into your bed floor, so you're going to have to cut it out. And if you don't want the stuff shown, you got to make a cover as well. And lastly, you'll need to get a good front end alignment if you're changing the height of your suspension, as this will help out with the way it functions and also to maintain good even tire wear. Now, things to look out for are camber, and that means the top in relation to the bottom of the wheels. So if the top of the wheel's in, that's a negative camber, and that's okay to have a little bit, up to like 1.5 degrees, I hear, is pretty much the maximum where it's not going to affect tire wear. But it'll also be good too if you have a little bit of negative camber for turning and going around corners and everything. But what you don't want is to have any positive camber. So if the wheels, top of the wheels are pointed out, that's very bad. That's really bad for the way the steering works and everything. So don't do that. Make sure it's either zeroed out or just a tad bit in. The other thing is really important is the toe angle. Now that's the front of the wheels being spaced out or in. You're going to want that straight. That really dictates your tire wear. If that is off, you could run through a set of tires in a matter of like 100 miles or even less. So once you make sure you have a good wheel alignment, you should be good to go. Well, there you have it, our list of worst and best ways to lower a truck. If you have any thoughts or opinions on this subject, please drop that stuff in the comment section below. Also, help us out by liking this video, as it helps us produce some more in the future. While you're at it, make sure to subscribe to this channel so you don't miss a future video, and we will catch you next time.
Thanks for watching Driving Line. If you guys like this video, consider subscribing to our channel so you'll never miss any of the content we create here. Whether you're into trucks, Jeeps, imports, domestic vehicles, or anything in between, we are here to fuel your passion. So hit that subscribe button and we'll see you guys next time.